I grew up in an immigrant family. We didn't have a lot financially, and I think that kind of drove a fire in me to strive for financial literacy. I was around 14, 15, and it was essentially buying and selling and arbitraging electronics on Craigslist.
And did you drop out of university?
I think I had about 6 classes left before I dropped out.
You had a great launch with Supademo, 2000 odd users in the first few months.
A launch isn't a singular moment. We would do the work of pitching it and building the demo for key stakeholders and key people. And once you have the first microcosm of users that love and champion the tool, I think for a viral product, it amplifies. I have conviction in the product and the team that we can grow at a venture scale, a venture pace, while being profitable. You give up optionality for the business. Once you build up enough of a capital pool, giving ourselves the room to run in whatever direction we wanted, I think that's what we wanted to go for.
Hello and welcome back to Off to the Valley, the podcast where we uncover the journeys of entrepreneurs and change makers from around the world. I'm your host Prateek Panda, and today I'm very excited to welcome Joseph Lee, an inspiring entrepreneur, builder, and the co-founder and CEO of Supademo. Joseph's journey began at just 15, creating businesses that led him to drop out of university and dive headfirst into entrepreneurship. After launching Supademo in 2023, he quickly grew the platform to over 2,000 users in just the first 5 months. And Supademo is transforming how teams create interactive demos, revolutionizing product demonstrations across industries. And Joseph's story is one of ambition, growth, and relentless drive to build something meaningful. And Joseph, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I met you almost by chance in Vancouver, but I'm really excited that you could take out time to be with us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And that was a very flattering intro. I don't know if it's all deserved, but thank you.
I'm sure you deserve even more. So, one thing that I found out new about you is that your entrepreneurship journey started really early. Um, and almost at the age of 15. How did that happen? Where were you? I know you have roots in South Korea and then in Canada. Tell us a little bit about Joseph as a person, your background, your childhood.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I grew up I was born and I grew up in Seoul, South Korea, and I lived there until the first 7 years of my life. So I think old enough to kind of have roots and understand the culture and kind of have an identity in Korea, but young enough to kind of also have a Canadian identity in Vancouver when I moved. But yeah, I grew up in an immigrant family. We didn't have a lot financially, and I'd always seen my parents kind of work really hard to make ends meet, and I think that kind of drove a fire in me to strive for financial literacy and independence, and kind of set myself up at a very young age. And I kind of dove into entrepreneurship, not necessarily thinking I wanted to be an entrepreneur like a lot of people, but just very naturally, through ambition, I was doing a lot of entrepreneurial things. So, the first business that you kind of spoke of, yeah, I was around 14, 15, and it was essentially buying and selling and arbitraging electronics on Craigslist. So I would take my pocket money from all the birthdays that I've saved up from, and I would buy phones and tablets and different electronics in bulk from kind of distressed retailers. And I would essentially take the bus and meet people in parking lots and sell them off for 50, 100%, 200% profit. And I wouldn't really call it a business, but it did pay through my university, which is really cool.
That's awesome. And did you drop out of university?
I did. So again, unintentional, but yeah, I think I had about 6 classes left before I dropped out.
Why did you decide to drop out?
I think the biggest thing was opportunity cost. At that point, my co-founder of that company, it was called Coastline Market, and we were building essentially North America's first predictive marketplace for seafood. So very esoteric, very niche, but we were building in the space, and we just started to build more and more conviction. I initially started as a side project, and then as with most startups, I think it was a snowball effect where we got one customer and then we ended up getting an investor on board and then we got into an accelerator. And as I think we were like 21 at the time, we kind of asked ourselves, like, what is really the harm in taking a couple months off of university and just like seeing where this goes? I think the worst thing is it's going to fail and we're going to learn a whole ton and grow as professionals. And in the best case, we're going to build a thriving business. So that was kind of the opportunity cost that I looked at. And yeah, I intended to pause university, not necessarily drop out. And like 10 years later, here I am having gone back to school.
There are a lot of people in that similar situation, and I want to get your thoughts on this. But also because, interestingly, you have Asian background. It reminds me of my time where even when I was young, I was pretty certain that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. But uh, sometimes Asian households sort of make it a lot more difficult to do or go the path of the unknown. How was it for you? Were you did you get a good supportive environment for that decision, or did you have to work your way through it?
Yeah, no, I think I'm very, very lucky to have the
That's good.
family that I do, and my parents were extremely generous and supportive throughout the whole process. And I think part of that is, and yes, they've like kind of bucked the traditional like East Asian family trend of pushing people to be a doctor or lawyer. But I think part of that was they grew up in that environment themselves,
Mhm.
so they grew up with parents that pushed them to like work really hard and stress and go through the educational system, which I know whether it's Korea or Japan or India, very, very rigorous and competitive, right? So I think they didn't want that for their kids and they wanted to push them towards like an alternative path that they really enjoyed. So I was always very fortunate. They always supported me like 100%, regardless of what I did.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
for folks who are listening to this and who might be in that situation where either they are contemplating not going to university at all, or who are already there and still sort of thinking that this seems like a waste of time, in your experience, how would you advise them to take this decision?
I think I don't think you can paint this question with like a broad brush. I think it depends. I think some people have a lot of like well-rounded experiences before coming into university, and maybe for them, um, university isn't as pertinent or valuable. But for others, I think not necessarily the subject matter, but just the fact of like being independent and like going off on your own and networking and meeting people and growing up and being an adult. I think that's very, very formative. And I would say I probably wouldn't have even started a business or been successful without, say, going through university for the first 2 years and getting kind of good grounding. I think there are diminishing returns that I found after, like, say, 2 years or 3 years of university. I think like 4 years or 5 years for university is a bit of an arbitrary number that they set. I think you take a lot of learnings like upfront, front loaded. Um, but I would say it depends. It depends. But it's also like, I don't think you need to look at everything like black and white, as in, how is this going to benefit me like career wise? You're also living life for experiences, and this is like a once in a kind of lifetime experience, like going to university as a young teenager or early 20s and kind of living that life. And I wouldn't trade that away just so I can get a little bit of career gain or like, advancing it by a year or two.
That's amazing. It sort of reminds me, like you said, there is no one way to paint this story. And in my experience, I feel university is actually one of the best times to start a company, because you can. It's also the best place to be able to find co-founders. There might be other people who have the same energy. The cost of starting the business is much lower, because you have much less things at stake, right? So you're in university, you're spending a lot of time together. If you live on campus, that's even better. The whole dorm room startup idea works because you spend so much time, and if you can find your co-founders and work on your idea while going to a few classes and still having fun, I think it's one of the best ways to start a company,
I
for
agree.
sure. All right. You've started a lot of different companies, very different ideas, right? So I want to know your thought process and your process actually of evaluating ideas and then figuring out a plan for execution? Like, how do you approach this?
Yeah, and I think my process for this has shifted dramatically. I think over the years, I think in the beginning, it was very much being naive and jumping into whatever I thought was like an exciting concept, and just like putting my heads down and like brute forcing it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of young people do it, and there's an element of that that is great, because I think having an element of naivety, you're not going to think about all the things that could go wrong and think about the friction, and you're just going to take the risk. And as you get older, I think the pendulum swings completely on the other side. As you mentioned, Pratik, you have more to lose. You have a mortgage, you have family. So I think you become more risk averse, and you just don't take that first step, even if you have data. Now I'd like to kind of take a pragmatic, like in the middle approach, where I try to assess the market dynamics. Because number one, I think the viability of the market and the pace of growth of the market is always going to like trump the founder's execution. Like we see this now in AI, right? If you're in AI, you find more success than being in like a conventional industry. So is the market growing? Is the opportunity space big? Is it a big TAM? Um, does the growth motion make sense? Can I actually scale like distribution to customers? And uh, obviously peeling back the layers and understanding, is this actually a pain point worth solving, right? So the question that I always ask myself is, where does this pain that I'm solving with the product fit within like the priority list of the customer? If it's top three, they're probably doing it themselves. If it's like four, five, six, I think that's a great opportunity space, because it's painful enough that they would probably pay to solve it, but it's not like something they're immediately trying to do themselves. And if you talk to enough customers and you find that pattern across a greater breadth of users, then I think that would give me enough conviction and say, hey, like let's dig deeper and peel back further and focus on this problem. And the other aspect is just founder fit, right? Like, do I have what it takes to build in the space, right? Like, I would love to build lunar rockets, but like, I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm gonna disqualify myself from those opportunity spaces like every time. But B2B SaaS, like PLG, like 100%, I think like I have more so what it takes. So yeah.
Got it. Talking about PLG, you had a great launch with Supademo, 2,000 odd users in the first few months. Great achievement, right? What was the process of planning this launch? Can you walk us through what defines a good launch for you?
Yeah. And I would preface by saying there isn't a launch isn't a singular moment. It's like your growth trajectory. I think looking back, you can always like be biased and tie it to a singular moment. But as you know, as an entrepreneur, particularly, it's a microcosm of a million different things that you did that bubbled up to one kind of moment. Um, but I would say in the beginning, what worked really well for us was let's reduce the friction for people to try our tool, evaluate our tool, and find value with our tool. And what that entailed for us is let's do the work for people, right? Let's make this not a lukewarm, like sure, but like a hell yeah. There's no reservations as to why we shouldn't try the tool. And what that means is like we would do the work of pitching it and building the demo for like key stakeholders and key people. We will audit it for them. We'll like iterate with them, and we'll essentially handhold them throughout the entire process, and essentially brute force and ensure that they find success with the tool. And once you have like the first like microcosm of users that love and champion the tool, I think for a viral product that has kind of loops embedded into our product, because obviously you create demos to share with customers, clients, staff, and then they try it and they share it, et cetera, et cetera. It amplifies from there. So for us, it was like, let's reduce the friction and like do all of the work for them. And we'll do all the fundamentals, like the low hanging fruit of building an exceptional product. You have to have an exceptional product first, but let's do that work for them and let's handhold, even if it financially doesn't make sense for like a $50 subscription.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions on that. But
Yeah.
first, you said the first and foremost requirement is to build an exceptional product. A lot of founders also continue to stay stuck in that build process where they are always like finessing the product and delaying the launch. How do you find that right balance where you know, okay, the product is ready for launch?
That's really really tough. And that whole paradigm has completely shifted, I think, in the last year or two. Because before it was like, if you're not, what is it, Reed Hoffman saying, like, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've shipped too late. Um, that doesn't hold anymore, right? I think like stuff, the velocity of building and the fidelity of like products you can create using AI, it's like completely upended that statement. Um, I think it depends. It depends on the industry. It depends on the ICP. I think for us, for example, um, we wanted like the core experience of like the recording and editing and sharing to be like near flawless, but like the design, the UX, different things here and there, like auxiliary features, bells and whistles, they could be a little bit like rough around the edges. What we wanted is let's get the basics completely right so that the majority of our users have an exceptional experience, and everything else we'll not worry about. Um, for a different type of product, say like if you're building in fintech, you actually can't have anything be rough around the edges, like tied to like the movement of money, right? Right, because that's like your core product. So I would say it depends, but the core experience has to be exceptional, and everything around that, I think you can maybe play with a little bit.
Sounds good. I'm going to go back to what we were talking about before, which was around launch. And I witnessed Super Demo being launched on Product Hunt. I'm sure there were other things that were happening in the background. Can you walk us through what was your sort of step by step launch plan? Like, what
Yeah.
are things that you did?
So we did a million different things. So number one, our product, we were building in like viral loops, making it really easy for someone to recognize when they were sent a super demo that it was a super demo, and they could sign up very easily. We set up a reverse trial where they could like explore the product fully without a credit card, um, access all of the higher plan features without having to opt in, so that they could just try before they buy, essentially. So like building in viral loops, making the product more shareable, easily accessible was one. One was obviously just investing in SEO early and often. So I think how we think about SEO, it's like a 401k or a TFSA for Canadians that compounds over time rather than like paying rent. So I think the earlier you start and start creating thought leadership and start creating content that is valuable, the more you're gonna like benefit and the more it's going to compound. So for us, what that meant was number one, primarily like focusing on bottom of funnel, like high intent searches. So search terms geared towards competitors and solutions that people already knew in the market, and piggybacking off of those, and also focusing on like very top of funnel search queries where we could put our product like embedded and put it front and center where people could kind of experience it as well. So I have a ton of like I think posts around this, so I can share this in the show notes if possible. But yeah, SEO was one. Product hunt and different launch and different directories. Obviously, that's kind of a low hanging fruit that we took advantage of, and just yeah, doing things that don't scale, just doing the work for them. When we get like a product update email from like a company that we want to work with, say like Shopify, taking the extra 5 minutes to respond to that product update email with the super demo saying, hey, like this was a really cool update. It would have been even better if you embedded this like super demo of how to use that feature to better drive adoption. Feel free to use this version, or you can duplicate it and create your own. So
That
taking
is
like
super cool.
little steps like that, I think make a very big difference. Obviously not very scalable, but if you're trying to establish your footprint, I think those are very easy tactics that you can do and should do as a founder, because it's only the founder that's going to do it. Like a large organization's not going to do it, right?
That's amazing. I really like that idea. Um, okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about Product Hunt has been one of the popular platforms for launches. It's seen a variety of different experiences over the years. How was your launch experience on Product Hunt? Do you still think it's a good platform to launch your product?
I do think it's a great platform. We haven't launched in the last little while, but what I would say is, I think too many people see Product Hunt as a crutch for like solving their problems, like solving their distribution problem or solving like a poor product experience. To be frank, so I think you can't look at it as like a pill that's going to solve those things. Take it for what it is, and use it as a way and a gateway for like soliciting feedback, getting your name out there, building some quality backlinks, and don't like over obsess. I think over like finishing first, second, or third, but obsess over getting like tangible feedback and tangible eyeballs that are going to help you down the line, not specifically during the launch, but a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. So as long as you are realistic about like what you can expect from it, I think is highly valuable. But I would also again say it depends on the type of business that you're running. With my first company, commerce and operations platform for food distributors, I just wouldn't launch on Product Hunt. Doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. But for our niche of like B2B SaaS, we work with startups all the way to enterprises. It makes a ton of sense, right? People
Yeah.
can try it out, and there's no like gate. They don't need to book a demo. They can just sign up directly from Product Hunt and start using. That's where it starts to make a little bit more sense. So you would have to ask that question, I would say, internally, intrinsically. Yeah.
Great. That's great advice. Super demo primary use case is to build really great product demos, but have you seen it being used in ways when you thought like, I have no idea why people are using it for this?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a common misconception that like only salespeople have this need to like create exceptional demos. But if you really think about like knowledge workers around the world, and they don't necessarily even have to like be in software or have tech products, but whether it's teaching someone to a colleague or a new employee, onboarding a new customer onto like new features, showcasing like the aha moments of your product on like a website product tour, sales follow-ups. Any knowledge worker has this innate need to like demonstrate how products work, how workflow works, in a visual way. Especially now, I think attention spans are like dwindling. People don't want to watch a 2 minute video, 3 minute video. They probably see the timestamp and click off right away most of the time, and it's notoriously hard to create. So I think it's very applicable to many different use cases. And to answer your question, yeah, we've seen a ton of different ones. We've seen like partnerships. We see a lot of people using it for like auditing. Like for example, agencies use it to like audit products. Where they'll click through someone's product and tooltip hotspots on like what they should improve about copy or UX. We'll see it for like prototyping, where a PM will like click through their Figma or use our Figma plugin to like click through and be like, oh, actually, this should be here, or this like the copy should be changed, or this like workflow doesn't make sense. But we've seen like everything, all types of different use cases.
That's great. So, switching gears a little bit, let's talk a little about the Canadian tech ecosystem. When you and I met maybe a year ago in Vancouver, I had just recently moved to Vancouver from San Francisco. And one of the things we were chatting about is how, there is a different pace to life in Vancouver, which is also nice. And I was actually really enjoying that. And I still spend easily close to 6 months a year in the US just between different travel.
Mm.
And I keep going to places like San Francisco or New York to get this pump of energy and then come back and get into build mode in Vancouver. What you recently moved to New York? What has been your experience having spent almost a year in New York? What differences are you seeing? Can you
Yeah.
go ahead and share some more?
Well, I mean, first of all, the two cities are like night and day when it comes to differences. I wouldn't say there's like a better or worse, but I think for the pace of life that I live and the ambition that I have, I would say New York is a much better fit, especially at my current age. I think for me, my decision matrix was, hey, it's hard enough building a business, very, very hard building and scaling a company. Why make it harder by not being in a high density area with like the right confluence of luck, opportunity, and people? right? Just by being here, you're just going to get lucky and be exposed to more ambitious people, more circles. Through osmosis, just learn a lot faster. So I think for a younger person that is um, very, very ambitious, for me, it was like a no brainer. That is a little bit sad to say. And I'm not going to say like you can't do that in Vancouver. I'm just saying the chances of doing that and the ease of doing that is just going to be more relevant in New York versus Vancouver.
Yeah, people founders talk a lot about when they speak about their past and the experience. A lot of it comes down to serendipity, and
Yeah.
that happens a lot more easily in places like San Francisco and New York because of all the reasons that you said. You've talked a little bit about the potential of the Canadian tech ecosystem and what changes you would like to see to support more entrepreneurs. Now that you are getting a more first-hand experience of things in New York, um, do you have any new sort of ideas and thoughts on, there's the whole build in Canada sort of movement going on. How do we encourage more founders to build successful startups in Canada?
Right. I think number one, I think the talent is absolutely there. Like some of the smartest people I know are in Canada. In fact, like when I meet people from like Harvard and Stanford and all these different like high caliber colleges and that are like now in the tech ecosystem, I'm conversing and working with them, and really there's no difference between them and like a high caliber person from UBC or Waterloo or McGill. Um, and I think number one is structurally, I think the ecosystem needs to improve all the way down from like the funding landscape, celebrating entrepreneurs and the risk appetite. I think we too much celebrate like jobs and following the system in Canada, like getting a big tech job, and that is kind of seen as the holy grail. Versus, I think entrepreneurship is more embedded and celebrated within the U.S. ecosystem. So I think it's not the people. I think the structurally the system needs to change. People need to get paid more as well. We need to have like more successes in Canada, where from that success it's going to stem and seed like brand new startups and brand new opportunities. And we just need people like smarter people building in Canada, so that again, like by osmosis, you look over at Sarah next to me and be like, oh, Sarah built a $400 million company and sold it. She's not very different from me. Like, how come I can't do it? And then you have that ambition and just do it. It's just that density is somewhat missing. Um, which is hard because yeah, like the analogy I would use is if you're like an exceptional American football player, for example, living in Canada, and you just want to make it, you want to go to the best league
Yeah.
and you want to get paid the most and you want to have the highest odds of success, so you're just going to go to the US and play in the NFL. The CFL is an option, but until the CFL as an organization gets more viewership and structurally builds a better system to support athletes, the NFL is always going to win. Right.
Great. So I want to switch gears once again, and we'll do a very quick sort of a rapid fire before I ask you a few last questions.
Sure.
So if you're ready for it, whatever comes to your mind, right? What's one startup myth you wish people would stop believing in?
B2B is tough to build in. I don't know if that's like a universal notion that people have, but a lot of people are like, I guess, more enamored by building for B2C, and it's more exciting, it's more sexy. But I think if you want to increase your odds of success, just building for other businesses, it's way, way easier structurally to build and scale.
Great. If you could switch lives with any other entrepreneur for a day, who would that be?
Oh, for a day. I mean, I would have to go back and pick Steve Jobs. But yeah.
Why?
I think just the visionary, the
Mm.
aspects of how he worked and like his collaboration style. I think just by being there and like absorbing through osmosis, like how he interacted with people, how he empowered people, how he kept people accountable the right way. I probably would have learned a lot there.
What's something unconventional that you've done to get your business noticed?
A lot. So one was obviously like doing things that don't scale, right? Like I would respond to product updates. I would post on Reddit. I would go to conferences alone, right? I would like go by myself wearing the Supademo t-shirt and just walk the floor and talk to people and pitch people. It's very daunting. Uh, you feel a little sleazy doing it, but you just got to do whatever it takes to get your name out initially.
If Superdemo had a superpower, what would it be?
I would say brand. We've built an incredible brand that is recognized within our category as one of the leaders, and that has helped immensely with distribution as well.
That's awesome. This next question is, I don't know if people ask that a lot, but what's one worst piece of advice that you've gotten as an entrepreneur?
Um, Raise when you can. So a lot of investors will and founders will say like when you can, just raise as much as you can. And because you never know how much money you'll need. I think that has like completely shifted in the age of AI, and we have obviously ignored that advice fully. Yeah.
So that answer actually gives us a good segue to maybe a couple of last questions that I'll ask you. You've almost sort of built Superdemo bootstrapped. What was the hypothesis behind that? Is it something by choice? You've got tremendous traction. I believe that if you wanted to raise money, you could. So, what's the thought process there?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely inbound and some incredible investors that have reached out regularly over the last few months. But I would say part of this came with experience. I would say with my first startup, we were overcapitalized for the amount of traction that we had. We raised way too much, way too soon. And one of the problems with that is you give up optionality for the business, right? Once you build up enough of a capital pool, there's like a preference stack you need to like surpass in order to even make money on a sale. And the expectations also change as you raise more. The expectations, growth rate, everything is higher. So for me, it was more a matter of hey, like I have conviction in the product and the team. That we can grow at a venture scale, a venture pace of double digits every single month while being profitable. And I think in the age of AI, it allows us to do that. And the key thing that it unlocks for us is optionality. Hard enough building a company, um, even harder when you have to build $1 billion outcome, and that's the only way anyone makes money. If you're pragmatic and raise the right amount of capital and build in a capital efficient way, you can have incredible successes selling your company for 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. There's many different paths you can take. So I think giving ourselves the room to run in whatever direction we wanted, I think that's what we wanted to go for.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that, Joseph. You obviously like AI is the buzzword. As a founder, are there any tools that sort of you really like and you can't sort of live without?
Well, I love Fathom. Fathom is an incredible meeting recording tool. That's amazing. I think there's incredible tools like 11 Labs, which is a huge part of what we do. I think their like AI voice is incredible, and some of the work they're doing is incredible. Big fan of Perplexity. I use it essentially like every day. I love their UI. I love their design. I think it's great. Obviously, OpenAI, Claude. Cursor is embedded into all of our engineers' workflows, so we mandate the use of AI throughout like our workflow, and I think that's kind of a standard that we've seen across the board, whether it's Shopify or other types of larger companies as well. So there's lots, and there's like new ones coming up every single day, right? And obviously, you have to put Superdemo in the mix there.
Yes, absolutely. What's next for you and Superdemo?
I think it's scaling to like our next milestone. So how do we get to 10 million in ARR, and how do we go from where we're at of tens of thousands of users, so founders, product marketers, CSMs that we're empowering, to now how do we take that next step up to empowering millions of knowledge workers around the world. So we have an exceptional product. We have an exceptional team. I really believe in it. There's no reason why we can't get there. All of the recipe ingredients are there. It's up to us to execute and get there now.
What has been your philosophy around building your early team? Like, what do you look for in people?
Character is number one. I think a lot of skill. Obviously, you need to have a like a bar, minimum floor for skill sets and technical competency. But I think like character and the type of person that they are, that is very hard to teach. So someone that is malleable, extremely open to feedback without taking things personally, is open to giving feedback in a transparent and candid and frequent way as well, and just someone that is has a thirst for learning. Like a lot is shifting nowadays, so I think to make yourself like future proof within any organization, I think you need to be in a constant state of learning and adoption of like new technologies, new methodologies. So those are the types of people that we try to bring on board.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Joseph. I think that's all the time we have for today, and it was amazing for you to join this. I want to give a shout out to Hiba, who's on your team now. She used to work with me before, and that's how we got introduced. So, shout out to her for sort of in some way making this happen.
Beautiful. Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
And that wraps up today's episode. Before we sign off, I would like to thank you for your support and thanks for tuning in. If you loved today's episode, then don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Be kind, be happy, challenge the norm. I'll see you folks again for the next one.